What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. If it is your first time, thank you for stopping by. Today we are going to talk about something that is honestly one of my biggest pet peeves when it comes to these trucks, and this goes across all the GMT 800 trucks, not just the Duramaxes, but also the half tons. And that is that I feel like their brakes are really not that great. Now, in the last 7 years, I have actually owned 6 of these trucks, 3 half tons and 3 Duramaxes, 2 LB7s, and 1 LLY. And honestly, I just thought across all of them, you know, the brakes, you can put brand new pads, you can put brand new rotors, you can do your drilled and slotted, you know, whatever you want to do. And even so, I just felt like it wasn't that great. And honestly, I think a lot of you guys might agree with that. You know, they're fine, but they're nothing that, you know, nothing to write at home about. And honestly, one thing that I noticed, you know, we went to the drag strip this past October, and one thing I noticed is that I felt like I was really struggling to get the truck shut down, and the brakes on this truck are actually pretty new. You know, it's not like I'm running 100,000 mile brakes and calipers and that kind of stuff, you know, and so I was like, what in the world, you know, what can I do about this? You know, this truck's not that fast yet, you know, and so if it were to get even faster than that, I feel like it would just be struggling to shut down. And so recently it's kind of come to light a little bit more to me about putting a 2011 brake booster into your older truck. All right, so here's the new part. I went ahead and got this from Gmax store. I will post the link for this in the description below. And actually buying this through them is not any more expensive than going to your local auto parts store. It's right about 200 bucks, you know, which a reman one or whatever from your local auto parts store is probably going to be about the same thing. So I said, hey, why not? Let's do it. Basically, the good thing about it is that everything about it should directly bolt up. You know, you've got your 3 ports and then your actual line to the brake pedal itself, 2 bolts that hook it onto the master cylinder there, and that's it. You know, so it should actually be a fairly easy install. If any of you guys have actually done one of brake booster before, you know that the only hard part to this is actually getting the 4 bolts, these 4 studs, the nuts off of the studs here that are actually up underneath your dash. But other than that, it should not be a hard install. I went ahead, I've already got the truck opened up, I've got it off of its wheels over here, and got the hot side intercooler pipe out of the way, just so it doesn't get scuffed up. Otherwise it definitely would have. So we're gonna jump right into this. We're gonna go ahead and remove the old one and get this new one installed and hopefully take it out on a test drive and see how it does. All right, guys, so on the brake booster itself, first of all, the brake booster is here and behind, and it has the master cylinder in front of it, right? So first things to do here is to remove, there's 3 lines. There's one here back here. Second one is this guy right here. And the third one is this guy here. So this one back here is an 18 millimeter. The one in the back, this is a 16, and this is use a pair of pliers, squeeze this, bring it up over the top. Now when you do this, these lines are probably going to leak a little bit, just so you're aware. Put a pan underneath it just to get, you know, capture whatever comes out of it. And once you have those 3 off, let me see if I can get my flashlight down. There you go. There's 2 studs, just like the ones that were on the brand new piece, that hold the master cylinder to the brake booster, and those are a 15 millimeter. So we're gonna go ahead and take off all 3 of these lines here and then unhook the master cylinder from the brake booster, and then we'll go inside the cab and start getting those bolts out of there as well as the brake switch. Now that the master cylinder is completely unhooked, we should be able to just kind of wiggle it forward off of those studs and kind of just let it sit. It's got enough lines, and they're steel lines, so it will hold itself up. Just kind of let it sit there, it's completely disengaged. And now we need to go inside the cab, remove those 4 bolts, remove the brake pedal from the back of the actual cylinder, and we should be able to pop this out, put the new one in. All right, so here's where the fun begins. You can see that kind of greenish tinge linkage that's coming up. Basically that hooks right to the brake pedal. That's how you actually apply pressure to your brakes and then to your master cylinder. There's that metal clip right there on the bottom of it that basically holds that assembly together. You need to pop that clip out, and you can go ahead and take that apart. And then you can see those indentations there. There's 4 studs right there that have 15 millimeter nuts on them that need to get popped out. And once those are out, once the brake switch is disassembled there, you should be able to pull the brake booster out from the front and put the new one in. Okay guys, so this is the little clip that holds on the brake switch, and it actually attaches the pin
into the linkage that goes to the brake booster itself. Basically, you need to be able to get a screwdriver in there and just pry up on it a little bit to get it over the top of the pin, and then you can slide it back. You see it gets larger, so you slide it back, and then you can just pop it right off and remove the brake switch and the linkage itself.
Alright guys, now all 4 of those studs are loose, so this whole thing should actually be loose from the cab of the truck itself. They just kind of can be tight, kind of pry up on it. There we go, getting there. And we are technically loose.
All right, so side by side, these look almost identical. However, these are supposed to be a higher flow or higher pressure. I don't actually know what it is. But either way, they're supposed to be quite a bit higher performance level. So I'm pretty excited to see what these can do. This one's just sitting here kind of draining out a little bit. I have already measured the bore on this hole. They are both approximately 5/8. So everything here should actually just fit right back up into place. Like I say, these are the 4 studs. Trying to get through there. They should match up exactly with the holes that were already there. Other than that, it's just popping these caps out, putting the lines back on, putting the master cylinder back on. Pretty self-explanatory. We're gonna go ahead and get this thing back in the truck, get that thing tightened up.
All right, so we're ready to install the new one. Basically, you can see these 4 holes there. All you have to do is basically put that brake booster and the 4 studs right through those holes. It will hold itself in place. So basically have to get it lined up, push it through, and then you can go back onto the inside of the cab and put those 4 nuts in place to hold it in. Put the brake booster switch and all that back together there. Hook up your lines, bleed it out, and you're good to go. All right, now with the booster itself actually in, you can just put those 2 nuts back on. I have already started the process and you tighten them down the rest of the way. And then we will go ahead and reconnect our 3 lines, and that will complete the install. Go ahead and need to put my hot side intercooler pipe back in, reconnect a couple sensors, that kind of stuff. And after that, we'll just slightly bleed out the system. I'll show you how to do that quick. It's not hard. But after all, these are 2 completely sealed systems. So the brake booster should pretty well bleed itself. At the same time, just pressing the brakes and turning the wheels and that kind of stuff a little bit. There is technically a procedure, and I'll go ahead and do that. And then we'll go out and get this thing on the road and see how it does. All right guys, so everything is now finished up. The truck is completely back on the ground, put back together. The wheels will be coming back off the ground here in just a minute. You can see the jack is still sticking out there. Basically, the last thing we need to do is bleed the Hydroboost, and that's actually a really simple process. First thing you do is get the truck off the ground, front wheels off the ground, then turn on your motor and pump your brake pedal about 10 to 12 times, okay? And then shut it off. Then with the wheels still off the ground, turn your steering wheel lock to lock 10 to 15 times, bring it back to center. With the vehicle still off, you can go back out, check your power steering fluid, make sure it is still at a decent level, and then go ahead and start the truck. Kind of turn it out, turn it back and forth a little bit again, check your fluid level again. At that point, you should be good to go. Alright guys, so I've just been driving around just kind of testing this out, to see how well it can do. And honestly, I think it's way better. It is way better than it ever was before. Brake pedal is super firm, truck shuts down in a hurry. It's great, it's not uncomfortable, it's very comfortable to drive. And honestly, it just kind of brings back some of that good driving experience, as far as just being able to shut down whenever you need to, comfortably, and feel like you're doing it in good time, and that kind of thing. Hands down better than where I was at before, and it's not like, honestly, my brake booster was only about a year, maybe a year and a half old, it's not like it was old, and it was a quality one, it was as good as OEM would have been, or could have been, without swapping out to the newer one. So anyways, guys, that's about as good as it gets. Would I do this? Would I recommend this? Absolutely. Absolutely.